Audio is another option for a different kind of content that you can use to mix it up on your blog. So just like video, images, or screen capture stuff, most folks in your niche probably aren't taking the time to create this kind of content, and just by doing so, you will stand out from the crowd. So audio can be scripted, it can be free-flowing, but like video, it gives you a chance to really get your personality out there and connect with your audience in a more personal way than words alone allow you to do. And since it takes time to listen to, like video, audio can also increase the amount of time your site visitors are spending on your site, which improves user engagement in the eyes of the search engines, and that's always a good thing. So let's take a look at some of the different ways that you can incorporate audio into your content strategy and then how to implement them. So I'm sure that you've heard of a podcast, but if not, think of it like a radio show that's just distributed online. Podcasts can be daily, weekly, monthly, or just whenever they happen. Ed and I do this podcast called Internet Marketing This Week. We do it with the esteemed Lynn Terry and Paul Culligan. And although it's a little bit more like Internet Marketing This Quarter, as we don't get to it every week, it is a ton of fun to do, and it gives each of our individual audiences a chance to hear us engage with other marketers, which can bring up different conversations than one would normally have. Things, say, that Paul would bring up to talk about aren't necessarily things that I would write about on my blog, and vice versa. But when we get together, we do get to cover those topics, and our audiences appreciate that. So if you know a few other folks in your niche or in closely related niches to yours, you could put together something similar where you meet occasionally and discuss the trends and news inside of your industry. A podcast can also just be like one person talking. You don't have to have a whole cast like we do. You just have to have something to say. Or you could do interviews with other enthusiasts in your marketplace, or product manufacturers, book authors, all that kind of thing. Since you've immersed yourself so fully in your marketplace when we did the Google Reader section, you'll know who the go-to people are to talk to should you decide to go that route of doing interviews. And you'll also know all of the hot button issues, questions that people have in your niche, and developments inside of your niche, so that your site visitors are getting exactly what they want when they listen to your podcast. Don't be intimidated by length. IMTW, Internet Marketing This Week, it tends to run about an hour, sometimes a little bit longer, but lots of people do prefer a shorter podcast out there, and there are tons of very popular podcasts in the iTunes directory that are just 5 to 10 minutes in length. So don't be intimidated by having to talk for an hour or something, because you really don't have to. So let's talk about how we put this kind of thing together. To run a podcast with more than one person, we usually use Skype to get everybody on a call. The call recorder Skype plugin can record your Skype calls if you're on a Mac. If you're on a PC, Pamela Recorder apparently records Skype calls well. I haven't used it, but that's what I've heard. If it's just you on your podcast, you can record it with any of the screen capture applications like Camtasia or ScreenFlow, and then from those screen capture applications, just export it as an MP3. Mac users can also record audio directly inside of GarageBand, and both PC and Mac users can download a software called Audacity that's free and record the input from your mic. So there's lots of tools available to pick from. You might already have some of those, or if not, those are some options for you. And then of course you'll need an input device like a microphone. Now with the Apple iTunes Store, you have a huge audience of folks who are potential listeners to your podcast. It's a proven distribution platform. It's already out there and it's waiting for you to join in. So you can use the PodPress WordPress plugin to integrate your podcast directly inside your blog. And then once your podcast has been submitted and accepted by iTunes, the PodPress plugin will automatically ping iTunes and update your iTunes feed to include your latest podcast. With PodPress, the people who land on your site, like just a normal site visitor, will also be able to listen to your podcast on your site. And they'll be able to see that they can subscribe in iTunes also. So this way your podcast would be available not just to the dedicated iTunes subscribers who find you via iTunes, but anybody who visits your site could either listen to the podcast or potentially become a podcast subscriber as well. So just think of a podcast as a semi-regular audio recording. Don't let the name intimidate you. It's about shipping. It's not about making things perfect. Now here is a simple blog post I did wherein I had come across some really great material that changed some of how I was thinking about outsourcing in this case. The material was actually from Pete Williams's presentation at Ed's Going Pro conference. I thought it was really good, and I wanted to share my thoughts with my blog readers, but like some of the videos I've done, I thought that what I had to say would be better conveyed in a free flow format where you could sort of hear my tone. So I recorded a quick audio using ScreenFlow, and then I used EZS3, that's EZS3, the number, .com, and with that I was able to upload the audio and then create the player that you can see here that embedded directly into my blog. Now, I could have also used the PodPress plugin to accomplish basically the same thing, and you can do that too if you want a free solution. You don't have to be an actual podcast. You can see I'm making air quotes right now, but you don't have to actually be a podcast to use the PodPress plugin. You just have to want to have an audio file embedded into your WordPress blog. So the PodPress plugin will allow you to take an MP3, upload it inside your WordPress dashboard directly, and then have a player on your site like this. Now Ed uses a different solution, and you can see what Ed uses here. This is called Audio Boo, this little player at the bottom, and that's embedded in a post in his blog. Audio Boo allows you to record 5-minute audios. They call those audios boos, and that's free. The audio after you record it is then going to be uploaded to the Audio Boost servers, and it's hosted for you, so you don't have to worry about any of that stuff, and you don't have to worry about how to create a player and that sort of thing. You can record your audio from the iPhone or Android Audio Boo apps. So if you have one of those phones, you can download the free Audio Boo app, record directly with your phone, or you can record from your desktop computer, Mac or PC, at the Audio Boo website. So that's a solution that would work for everybody for those short boos. And like I said, they don't involve hosting or having to create a player. So they're perfect for short newsy updates when you want to share with your visitors while you're on the go if you've got the iPhone or Android app. And that's why Ed uses them a lot, because he's able to do it on the go. So when you're out and about, you get a really great idea, and truth is, we spend a lot of time at our desks in our offices, so it's always refreshing to get out, and a lot of times that can give us ideas as soon as we leave the four walls of our office, right? But if you're out, you get a really great idea. It isn't always practical to immediately sit down and write a blog post on our phone. It's not practical, it's not fun, and if we're out, we're probably doing something else anyway. But you can use Audio Boo to get those thoughts out very quickly, get them out to your blog readers, to your audience, so that you can continue to stay in touch with your marketplace even if you're not directly in your office. So it's a great tool for doing audio quickly and on the go. Now, I'm sure that there are a few audiophiles who are watching this video who work with soundboards and all kinds of fancy audio gadgetry, and that's something that you can tackle down the line if it's a personal interest of yours. But for the purposes of shipping and for the purposes of getting content out to your audience, it isn't about the tools, it's about the content and about you having something to say and contribute to your marketplace. That's what makes a market leader in the eyes of your audience and in the eyes of the search engines.